Now we're on episode 5. It's going to be
Of
mainly
Sideline Whispers.
whispers. Episode 5. We're cruising along here.
Perfect. All right, so we got Vikings versus the Green Bay Packers.
We kind of touched on this a little bit last week too. Yeah, pretty similar answer from me here. It's really going to depend on if they can cover Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. They're both great players. I think it's pick your poison is the problem. And they pick Jordan Addison, who killed us last game. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think so. I was reading a little bit. The Packers decided to do a lot of, they called it cloud coverage as well as double teaming Justin Jefferson. And I think we have shown that the KOC has shown if you decide to double and try to take Justin Jefferson out of the game, that we actually have Sam Darnold, surprisingly, this year has been able to be like, okay, we will kill you with Jordan Addison, TJ when he's healthy. We have Jalen Naylor, but I think it'll be interesting. I actually, coming from a Vikings, we haven't had a game every year since I've been a Vikings fan. A lot of it was Mike Zimmer, but it's happened with KOC. It just hasn't happened yet this year. Is there's a game where we just do not show up, and it hasn't happened yet this year, which kind of makes me a little nervous. So that makes me nervous. So I can see this game going 3 ways, and it's going to be a cop out because it's like the 3 possibilities. But I will say which one I think is most likely. But I think they're all like, I will not be shocked. Is I could see the Vikings winning by, let's say, like 13 points, 14 points plus. I could see the Vikings losing by 13, 14 points plus. But what I do think is I think it's going to be like a 23-20 or like a 28-24, 28-27. And I think it's going to be a close game because I think what's going to happen is I think it's 2 good defenses, and I know the Packers defense has been playing lights out, and I think the Vikings usually have a pretty good defense. We either shut you down, or if we don't shut you down, we're creating turnovers. The Packers they're going to be a formidable opponent. I think the Packers are one of those teams, and I think a lot of teams in the NFC in general they're teams that you don't want to play. And I like it, but I hate it. And the fact that I think the NFC this year is so loaded.
It is.
Like no one. Do you really want to actually play the Lions in the playoffs? No. Do you actually want to play the Vikings in the playoffs? No. Do you actually want to play the Packers in the playoffs? No. Do you want to play the Eagles?
Nope.
Do you want to play the Rams? Do you want to play, I would say, the Bucks? Probably not, because the Bucks are a team where out of all of them, maybe, but the Bucks are a team where if they're on, they're on. They're great. If the Falcons win that division, please let the Vikings play the Falcons. or like the Packers play even like the Commanders. The Commanders are a team where if they're on, Jaden Daniels is dynamite. But I think
they got some good teams in there.
Yep. Yeah, and I think it's crazy. And I think what makes this interesting too is we are kind of watching history in the sense that it is very likely that we will have a 13-win team that is in 3rd place in the division. And that's only that if, let's say, the Packers lose and then they win, because you have 12 wins, correct? So if you lose to the Vikings and then you win, you're 13. There's also a possibility that there is a 3-way tie that I believe the Lions win the 3-way tie because they beat the Packers and the Vikings twice. But if the Vikings lose to the Packers but then beat the Lions, it'll be 14-3 across the board, with the Lions being number 1 or 13-3 or 13-4, whatever. But you will have, I'm pretty sure we are already breaking history in that we will have a 2nd and 3rd team having at least 12 wins, like a 3rd team having 12. It's insanity.
Packers on such a hot streak lately. I don't even know. It's crazy. They just ran through the Saints. Granted, it was the Saints. I will say that.
Yeah. I watched some of the game and some of the highlights, and I was like, okay, the Packers look good. Josh Jacobs looks good.
Josh Jacobs, he's a game changer, yeah.
God, Rattler looked horrible. Like, he was throwing some balls, and I was like, what the? And you could just tell that offense is hindered in the fact that they just don't even trust them. They were throwing a lot of short passes or just running the ball when you shouldn't be running. You should be passing the ball.
Mhm. They didn't even have Alvin Kamara though either, so it was like, or even Taysom Hill was out too. Chris Olave's out for the season too. I don't know who was playing,
Yeah, that's bad.
rated,
Hmm.
but it was still, I think it was 34-0. That was the final score, I think.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is that was the first shutout of the season, and it's one of I just heard this today that I believe, but it's every single NFL football season has had a shutout, and that was the first one of the season. And it's one of the latest times in the season that it's ever happened. Usually it happens randomly in one of the earlier weeks, but that was the first shutout. So congratulations, that's like an accomplishment. I mean, shutting a
Yeah,
team out is shutting a team out. Like you gotta that team's got to be not on, but you got to be on. Like even if you're not on and you're facing a bad team, they're going to get some points. So you got to be on to shut somebody out.
yep. Just an all-out game. Defense played good. Special teams played good. Offense played great, as shown by 34 points. But it was a good game. The game before that versus Seattle, they looked great too.
Yep,
So
better than the
getting on a hot streak.
Vikings looked against Seahawks. I
Yep.
think the Seahawks looked better against the Vikings, maybe, but again than against the Packers. But that could either be the Seahawks or it could be the Vikings, obviously. But yeah, you guys
Yeah.
looked. I think what's going to come down to the Packers and the Vikings game, and it's curious, but I do think obviously is it's going to be Josh Jacobs in that run game. If they can get on with him and they can stay with it, I think it's been a curious season for the Vikings in general. We have the number 2 rush defense in the NFL, but if you actually watch our games, I don't know why. There are some teams that literally can't run on us. We stop them and they just say, "Wow, we can't run." So they end up just passing a whole bunch. But there are games like a good example is the Falcons game where they can run on us. I don't know why or how. We like somehow make them stop running. Even if they're like picking up like six, like the Falcons were picking up 6, 7, 8 yards of run, and then we just somehow made we like convinced them, hey, just pass the ball. And it's I don't understand it, but I think Matt LaFleur is a type of coach that'll be like, no, we are actually going to keep running the ball. And I think that could be a key
Yeah.
in the sense that if you stick with the one and you keep running, there's a way to control the time, control everything. But I think a key to winning is if the Vikings somehow convince, like they've convinced so many people to just stop running. We have the number 1 rush defense, but we're also the least ran on team. And it just sometimes when you watch the game, it just doesn't make sense. I'm like, why are they not running against us? I don't mind it. They're like literally gashing us, and then they just stop running.
The Vikings are usually up. They've won a lot of games, and that's, I think, why.
I think that is a little bit of a. I mean, obviously, it hasn't happened as recently, but in the beginning of the season, it happened 100%. It was like against the Packers is one of the best examples. It was 28-0, boom, and then
Hmm.
because Josh Jacobs against the Vikings, I think he only ran like 8 or 9 times. If you're down 28, you can't run the ball. You have to try to. And I mean, hell, it almost freaking worked. That was a crazy game, and that's why I think we're in for a crazy game. I think our defenses are good enough and our offenses are good enough where it actually doesn't even matter if the Packers or the Vikings are up. Game's not over. Doesn't.
I agree. I think Edgerrin Cooper is going to make a difference in this game, too. The way he's been playing lately, he's finally back from injury. Incredible last game. He was all over the field, just making plays left and right. So I think he'll be a big factor in it. Hopefully, he replaces Quay Walker, who's kind of a hothead at times. And
Yeah,
I don't think Quay Walker is living up to his draft hype. Yeah, I know he's first rounder, so but Edgerrin Cooper to replace him, I think he'll be a big upgrade. Because Aaron Jones, he's still a beast. I loved Aaron Jones. I always will. He's a good player. My favorite thing was when he was on the Packers, Dontavian Wicks dropped a pass, but Aaron Jones went up and like lifted his head up and just like looked at
yeah,
him like, "Oh, it's all right, man." It was just
yeah. Pick that head up, boy.
it was an emotional moment. I was like, "Let's
Yeah,
go!"
yeah. That's the funny thing, and I think it will be a key if Aaron Jones has a big game. You know, you got Jordan Love who's playing lights out. You got Sam Darnold who's playing his out of his mind too, and but I think the running game is going to be a huge part of the game, and I think both are going to have a good game. I think Aaron Jones is going to have a good game, and I think Josh Jacobs is going to have a good game. I think it's curious in the sense that the Packers are the youngest team, right, in the NFL. I believe they're so.
They're
It's
the
it's.
youngest team. Rams are too.
I was watching the video on NFL.com, and they were talking about how the Packers versus Vikings. The Packers, they have a whole bunch of young people, and they have no clue like the stakes they're in, which is a benefit. They're just here for the ride, baby. It's the first time they're doing it. This is awesome. They don't care.
They're playing football.
They don't know better to care. And and then the Vikings, we are the castaways. We got the Sam Darnolds.
Yeah,
We got the Aaron Jones who got replaced. We got Stephon Gilmore, the journeyman. We have all these castaways. And it was a funny take on it that it's you got the newcomers who don't know any better, and you got the castaways who are just trying to prove people wrong. And I'm like, that's a pretty cool take. It makes a cool storyline
yeah,
of two teams that theoretically they're both in the playoffs already, so the playoffs are going to be a wild ride. And I mean, the Packers can still get the number one seed. It is very difficult.
yes. Very. It's very difficult. It involves a lot of people losing.
Yeah, lots of things. Yeah, I think the Eagles have to lose out, which is unlikely. The Lions have to lose out. The Vikings have to lose to the Packers, obviously, but then the Vikings win. Packers would have the tiebreaker over the Vikings for the division. The Lions would actually be third because they would have lost out. Or no, 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 sorry. Vikings would be because they would lose the tiebreaker to Detroit.
It's not going to happen. Yeah, it's just not going to happen. It's still possible theoretically.
It'll be interesting to see how the seeding works. So we could still have obviously Vikings win out, they're the number one seed, which would be insanity. If the Vikings lose to the Packers and the Packers win next week, so the Packers win out, the Packers would actually want to be rooting for they would be rooting for Detroit because the Vikings, if we lose out, would actually drop to the sixth seed. Packers would jump up to the fifth seed, which would still be wild because 13 win team is the third seed,
Yeah, it's still
and the Lions would be the number one seed.
feel bad for the AFC this year. They're just getting shit on.
Honestly, it's going to come down to I think it's going to be the Bills, but I'll tell you what, KC. I don't actually think their defense is so good.
Yes.
They're going to be a hard team to beat. And even watching the game is like there was just one crazy fumble in the KC game that happened. Was it Christmas Day?
Yeah.
But they had a crazy fumble where this guy, I think it was maybe a punt return or kick return, he got walloped. The ball popped out, but then it hit a player and then went the other way. And then all the other guys are going the other way. So then Casey was able to jump on it. They have a lot of luck, and they got a lot of ref help. You know what I'm saying? It was questionable. So we'll see. But I think honestly, I think there's a lot of teams in the NFC right now that could beat KC. I think any given Sunday, Packers beat them. I think the Vikings could beat them. I think the Lions could beat them. I think Eagles could beat them. I'll tell you what too is I think a better Super Bowl would be if the Bills are playing any of those top NFC teams because that'll just be
Yeah.
you're not stopping the Bills. You might be able to slow them down, but they're putting up some points. It's going to be a barn burner. It's going to be a barn burner. It's,
Yeah. Pretty Bills. The thing is, there's three teams in the AFC this year: the Bills, the Ravens, and the Chiefs. One of those three is making the Super Bowl. I don't see any other team making it really because we got the Texans probably going to win that division. Wild card teams, Chargers, probably one of them.
yeah,
Yeah, Steelers are another one.
Steelers are beat. It's going to be who I think they're very
There's no in the AFC. It's probably going to be the Bengals or the Broncos too. It's probably the Broncos.
yeah. I know the Bengals can make it, but they need a lot of help.
Yeah, all of those teams very beatable. So we'll see. It'll be an interesting playoff race in the AFC. I predict one of those three teams making it all the way though. That's pretty much it. The NFC, it's a whole other wild card here. There could be. I'm really excited for it though.
Yeah, it should be good. And I think one of the obviously seeding helps and playing at home helps, but I
Uh-huh.
think almost every single one of those teams shows up when they're like on away. I think that's what's going to be interesting is like the Packers show up
Yeah.
on away games. This season, the Vikings show up, the Lions show up. I mean, no one's going to really want to play the Rams. No one's going to, it's the Commanders are going to be a tough out. No one's going to want to play the Eagles. Like all these teams are good teams and they're all a little different, which makes it
Hmm.
interesting.
So how big of a factor do you think home field advantage is this season?
I don't know. I think it. I'll tell you this. I think it would have been a bigger if the Eagles had gotten the first seed. Now it's unlikely that they get the first seed,
Yeah.
but if they because it's just the difference between playing outside or like let's say the Packers, obviously, but it's going to be very hard
Hmm.
for them. Eagles had a shot at one point, but they're losing to the Commanders made it very difficult. They're gonna. I think playing outside if it could have been home field advantage. They right now obviously it's basically coming down to the Lions and the Vikings, and literally we might know this week and in 2 days if it's the Lions or it could possibly the Vikings. Like it could be an eliminator that the Vikings no longer can get the number one seed. And if that's the case, it's Lions, it's at home, which I think will be an advantage, but it's in a dome. And I think it's always slightly different dome home advantage. I think dome, the crowd can play a bigger factor because it can get louder inside of a dome. It's always going to be the same field condition. Whereas when you're out and you're used to playing out Philadelphia, like Green Bay, there that can be huge, especially when you do have the opportunity to have a Josh Jacobs or a Saquon Barkley, and it's snowing out and it's cold and it sucks. That's a huge advantage.
That is. So I don't know if you saw this. Looks like Jalen Hurts will be out this week with a concussion. I mean, they are playing Dallas, but
Yeah, Dallas sucks.
it's still. I don't know who. Do you know who the Eagles' backup is?
Oh, it is. Yeah, he came in. It's the Steelers. All played all
Yeah.
right.
All right.
They're playing Cowboys, but Cowboys just had CD Lamb
Yep.
go on season on the IR. Yeah, they shot him. So I mean, who's on the Cowboys really? That offense, that any of those wideouts. I mean, they had a hard game. Was the Commanders, and it just so happened, unfortunately, Jalen Hurts got hurt.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
that's never good. And that opened the door for a crazy. It was still a crazy comeback by the Commanders. They had to still, work some magic. So good on them.
We got 3 games tomorrow too. You know that?
Yeah, and I saw Jalen throw the pick towards the end of the game, and I think the Vikings game started, so I started watching that, and I was like, okay, Eagles won, but the Eagles ended up kicking a field goal, and then that's when the Commanders drove down and scored the touchdown. So it wasn't until like 9, 10 o'clock that I found out that the Eagles actually lost. I
It's
thought they
late.
just won. I never even checked. I just never checked. Eagles won. Don't worry about it. No, it was pretty funny. Yeah. So, but it was good. Yeah. What are the games tomorrow?
Chargers versus New England, Denver versus Cincinnati, and then the night game is Arizona versus the Rams.
Ooh, those are actually all three.
So we got some good matchups there. Yeah.
I was gonna say those are three pretty good games. Interesting games. Fun games.
Chargers versus New England. I don't know about that one.
Yeah, it's a little scary. For Cincinnati, they're both Cardinals. I think they
Yep.
got knocked out, but the Rams are fighting, and love to ruin their
We never know.
divisional opponents' playoff chances.
Oh yeah. If you want to ruin
Yep.
somebody's playoff spot, it's always going to be the divisional one. But yeah, the Rams looks like they are in the hunt right now. So that's them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the Rams over the season.
Bucks are 9-7 right now.
Well, because I think
That would, oh wait, no game probably.
yeah, I think that's what it is. If the Rams, I'm not sure if they have a different tiebreaker, and they're in, or if they need likely in, and they just got to beat the Seahawks, or if they lose the Seahawks, there's like there's some other tomfoolery tiebreakers that got to happen.
Right now, the Rams have a 57% chance if they lose, so they had to have beaten it. Yeah. And then Seahawks have a playoff probability of 15. So
Yeah.
so it seems like the Rams are in a better spot right now. So it's looking pretty much like Lions number 1 if something doesn't happen here. Eagles are 2 and then Vikings 5, then Packers 6 and then Rams, Falcons, Commanders for the rest of the spots. We'll see. It's pretty much already decided here.
Number one big thing is the number one seed. I think they said it's only happened a couple times where it's the number one seed and a division has come this late with such high records. I think it was like the, maybe I'm not gonna be able to quote them, but it was one team in the 2000s and then it was two teams in the 2000s and then another time in the 70s.
So here's
But
something we can go over a little bit. Who was your pick for the awards for this year? MVP, comeback player of the year, defensive, all those ones. What do you got for all those?
okay, MVP. I think it's gonna be Josh Allen. Lamar's having a crazy year too. I think Josh it. Would I be surprised Lamar gets it? No, but I think it should be Josh Allen as MVP.
Yeah, I would agree.
Offensive Player of the Year. That's gonna be Saquon.
Yeah,
I think it's Saquon Barkley.
Saquon, he's having a great year.
Yeah, he's just having too good of a year. Defensive Player of the Year. That's gonna be hard. I actually don't even know because Comeback Player of the Year they changed it so this year so it has to be comeback from an injury.
That's true.
And I'm trying to think who has had a pretty dominant year coming back from injury. And I mean, maybe you could argue like Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow too. Yeah,
Didn't he get shut down with the wrist injury or hand injury or
he
something?
got he had something happen, but
Kirk,
Kirk is the only one I.
but I mean, Kirk hasn't had that good of a year.
No, he really hasn't. That's the thing. It's probably
Same with A Rod.
yeah. Well, he's out of it. I think. I don't think he's getting it. Offensive rookie of the year, I would have to say Jaden Daniels. Him,
Yeah, it's
Bo Nix, maybe. Powers though. Powers has had a great year. He's done something.
yeah, but I think it'll come down to Jaden's a
Yeah,
QB and
that's kind of what
Jaden's
I'm
been
thinking.
playing amazing.
What about defensive player of the year?
Yeah, that's where
That's a tough.
on the sacks. That like who's a game record that you hear about all.
It's probably got to be T.J. Watt. I mean, he's always great. Him, maybe Patrick Surtain, or safety Xavier McKinney. 7 interceptions.
That's a lot of
It's got a
interceptions
lot.
for sure. I mean, interceptions are huge. It's gonna be a weird year for defensive play because I feel like there's just not that, or yeah, I should say, you just the household names aren't there like they usually are, and I think that you could have like someone like an Xavier McKinney win it. Not that he's not having a great season; he is having a great season,
Uh-huh.
but it's just a lot. I feel like lately it's been like those sack
Yeah.
monsters have been getting it, and there hasn't really been a sack monster
No,
this year.
it's kind of been a little bit lackluster.
Yeah, and then defensive rookie of the year. I would maybe I know he's been having a good year. I don't know if he's had the stats though, but Jared Verse for the Rams, I know he's been having a monster year. I just don't know if it's stat wise a monster year.
He has 4.5 sacks. Yeah, 4.5 sacks, 11 tackles for loss.
I know he's been a beast though, because I've been reading up on him and he's been a
Yeah, he's
monster.
been great. I know that. For coach of the year, what do you think? You're gonna love this answer. I think it's got to be O'Connell. I think it's got to be.
It's gotta be,
It's
baby.
got to be.
I mean, you got that was a Dan Quinn Lions, but they were supposed to be good.
Yeah,
Mike Tomlin, he's always good. You got Andy Reid, but they were supposed to be good. Kevin O'Connell, Minnesota Vikings, expected win total was 6.5 wins, over or under. I mean, we doubled that. You got to give it to
I
him.
think
He's
I think he's gonna get it. Yeah,
I think he should get it. I think just on the stipulation that it's different. Look at Bill Belichick. He never won it, but that's because he was good and he was expected. His teams were supposed to be
he
good.
never won coach of the year.
No, because his teams were supposed
Wow.
to be good.
Highly
And he
regarded
was
as one of the best coaches, and he never won Coach of the Year. I didn't know that.
Andy Reid with the Chiefs. I don't think's ever won it.
Oh,
I don't even know if I don't know if he's ever won it with the Eagles, but it's because they were supposed to be good. You theoretically shouldn't win it. If you're good, all right, you're good. They thought you were going to be good. A lot of times, Coach of the Year should be. I think Kevin O'Connell should have won it. His I think he got snubbed his rookie year as head coach. He picked up a team that was 9-7, 7-9, 8-8, and went 13-3. I think this year is we weren't supposed to be good. I don't even know if we're good. I think we're pretty good. And I think a lot of it does come down to coaching. And I think it's him, and I think it's the coaching staff. I think it's the culture that he has built, and I think that's just. I think there's not another coach I currently think is had a bigger impact on a team that was not supposed to be good that turned
yeah.
out to be
Well,
good.
thinking about it, they drafted their quarterback of the future in J.J. McCarthy. What was it, like preseason week 2 or 3? He just goes down
Yeah,
out for the year, torn
that's
ACL.
right.
And did you even have Darnold in the roster at the time? Or did you sign him? You
We
did.
did, we
Okay.
did, we did it. We had Darnold.
So he does know the playbook, but he was never good. What do you know? He comes out and he's having a great year. Probably the career year for him. I don't think he's had a better year than this.
He has not.
Yeah.
He's thrown for more touchdowns at this point. I believe he's thrown more touchdowns than he's thrown in his career as a Jet.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean he's having a lights out year. And I will tell you this: during the game versus the Seattle Seahawks, there was a segment of plays on that last drive, not the very last drive, but the last drive that we scored the Vikings scored the touchdown to go up. On a pass, he dropped back. He got sacked, but there was a face mask on. The Seattle Seahawks grabbed the face mask. He got his ankle rolled up on, and he got up. He actually had to stay down for a little bit on one knee because he got rolled up on
Yeah.
his ankle. And this is all while his headset, Kevin O'Connell's battery died on his headset for mysteriously on a very important drive. Wink, wink, Seattle.
This is why I hate
Um,
Seattle.
Yeah. So he's trying to get the play in. And so they do the 15 yards, and then he drops back. There's a little bit of pressure. The pocket's closing up. There's room. So he steps up, meanders his way through the pocket, and he steps up on the run. As he's about to, he could see the two guys from either side of him about to clobber him. And he throws the ball. He gets absolutely smoked by the defensive of the Seattle Seahawks, and he throws it over the corner to the outside. And Jefferson, who is, I think, the best wide receiver in manipulating his body, he completely rotates his body to be able to catch it on the outside, which makes it so the safety can't get there, and he scores a touchdown. That play is probably my favorite play of the season, just because Sam Darnold had a bum ankle on that play. He stepped up in the pocket, knew he was going to get smoked, throws a absolute dime where it was either Jefferson was going to catch it or it was going to be incomplete in double coverage. And he catches it, scores a touchdown to go up for the game-winning touchdown. If you told me Sam Darnold was going to make that throw, week was it 16 on a third or a 12-2 about to be a 13-2 Minnesota Vikings, I would have been you are on crack.
There's something wrong with you. Yeah. I will say Darnold
Yeah,
probably
that
had now he probably has the best receiving core he's ever had, though. I was just looking at him.
100%.
Yeah. He was actually on the Jets from 2018 to 2020, so he wasn't even there when I thought he was. And then he went to Carolina. Yep.
Carolina.
And then last year he was actually on San Francisco.
Yeah, he sat behind
Yep.
Brock. Got a little Kyle.
He learned a lot those places. So I was wrong about that initially, but yeah, he's playing great. Kind of hoping he stops. He is only 27 years old though. Yeah. So next year, do you keep rolling with Sam or do you put in McCarthy?
I will say this at this
I don't think
point,
you can take him
how
out.
good he's been playing, how good he's playing. It's going to depend on the playoffs, how he does in the
Okay.
playoffs. I do think at this point, the least we do is I think we will, as a team, just like we will make sure we do right by Sam, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. I don't think we'll like try to screw him over, but I do think what the main goal should be currently is franchise him and possibly try to trade him to a team that wants him as well as that he's willing to go to. I think we do talk to him
Okay.
and try to get maybe like a second round pick. That's what the New England Patriots did with Matt Castle. When he played the year that Tom Brady was out, they franchised him and they shipped him off to KC for a second round pick. I think right now that's what I would do. If obviously if he wins a couple playoff games, I'd be open maybe to franchising him and let him play on it. If we go to the Super Bowl with him, shoot, that's when you start getting like, all right, like maybe let's see what we could do. It's and then I mean it's a good problem to have with him and JJ. I mean the way he's playing right now, I mean he's playing like I mean
Man,
he's
he's thrown 32
theoretically
touchdowns.
he's playing yeah, he's playing like an elite quarterback. He's playing like a top 8 quarterback.
Yeah.
But it's a small sample size, and that's why he's getting flack. But people keep throwing him flack, and he keeps showing up and making the throws when he needs to. So it's
This man versus the Falcons, he threw for 347, 5 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. I did not know that happened.
yeah,
Like, but
yeah. He actually hasn't. So I know Jordan Love's on a streak of not throwing interceptions. I think it's 5 games, 6 games, and then Sam hasn't in 6 games, and that interception was too. If you were watching it, it was on a 4th and 4 or 4th and 3, and he was getting rushed out of the pocket, and he was about to get sacked, so he threw it up to Justin Jefferson, and it was double coverage, and the guy picked it off, and it ended up being like a pro for us because then they lost like 20 yards of field
I
position.
didn't know that. Wow.
But yeah, that's the only pick he's thrown in 6. So like everyone's coming on. I know Jared Goff has only thrown 1 pick in 6 games. So the NFC North quarterbacks are on heaters
Yeah,
right now. They're playing good. NFC North, I'd probably throw some money on NFC North representing the Super Bowl
I'd
this year.
agree. Well,
I think we got 3 teams that could beat anybody any given day. And you know what? They've been beat each other. They've all been good games. And I think this one's going to be a good game. And I think it's, the cream rises to the top and steel sharpens steel, baby.
so one thing I don't quite understand about Darnold, he has all these great games he's played, and then there's one just really bad game that stands out, and it was versus the Jaguars, which I don't
Oh,
understand.
yeah. That was such a bad game.
Yeah,
I don't know.
through no
I
touchdowns
don't
and
know,
three
but
picks. Yeah,
I'm glad he got it out in a win too,
yeah.
which is hilarious.
How does that happen?
I'm watching that game too. It was a very we were literally just moving on them at will, and then we get in the red zone and just like throw a pick. I did watch it back as well as listen to some people talking about it. So Jacksonville blitzed 1 time that whole entire game.
One
So what
time.
they did is they just dropped everyone into coverage. So they 3 or 4 people every play basically, and they were just banking on him making a mistake, and he was making those mistakes in with all the coverages that were out or all the players that were in coverage. But at the end of the day, it didn't result in a win. So I think that might be why teams aren't going to try it.
I
I don't
mean,
know. Maybe the Packers
the
try it.
one interception you just mentioned is the only one since that game.
Yeah, he's been on a heater since
Hmm.
it. And I'll tell you what, he's been making good decisions. He hasn't really had so to start the season off. I know even in like the Packers game, he threw that well. First of all, he threw that 1 pick that wasn't a pick. I don't know how it got reviewed and they upheld it. It was the most ridiculous
Don't leave it in the hands of the
pick
ref.
that it was not a pick, and they said yeah, okay, that's still a pick. You knew that happened. But he early on in that game he threw a pass that one of the Packers dropped the pick. It should have been a
Yep.
pick, and but he has definitely cut down on those kind of passes where they could have been picks, and I think that's what kind of happened in the Jacksonville game is where he was throwing some balls that like probably should have been picked and they weren't getting picked, and I think just that game was those passes were like they were actually catching those passes, and he's really been able to minimize those passes.
Yeah, he's done great this season, though. We'll see if he can continue it. I'm kind of hoping he falters here. I'm not gonna lie there. They're doing too good.
Yeah. What about Jordan Love? He's been on a
He's
heater.
been doing
Talk
good
about
too.
him. He's been great.
I mean, he finally has a receiving core again. Christian Watson just got hurt again, but I feel like that's always happening. The thing is, he does great when Christian Watson plays, but Christian Watson, he just takes the top off the defense, and he's more of a distraction,
Hmm.
and so many people just back up because you have to respect his speed and the ability to make those big plays. And then it leaves everybody underneath,
Yeah.
so he can make more plays and just be more consistent. But yeah, he hasn't thrown a pick since the Bears game on November 17th there, so he's doing great too.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah, he's not forcing it, which is good. Hopefully, he continues to do that and put up some numbers. But we've really just been relying on Josh Jacobs. Like the past 5, 6 weeks,
Hmm.
Josh Jacobs just keeps getting the ball and he's just running it down people's throats and scoring. They really haven't passed it much in the red zone. It's just a handoff to Jacobs up the middle who will end up scoring. Hmm.
Yeah, which is good.
Yeah, he's doing well. He's a great addition to the team. Um, I'm kind of upset nobody knows how well he's doing because everybody's on Saquon Barkley. Everybody's eyes are on both Barkley and Derrick Henry, and
Hmm.
there's just been the running backs are great this season, and I love it because everybody talked about how the running back was so undervalued and nobody wanted to pay these players, and then everybody went and signed these new players for decent deals. They probably could have gotten more, if they waited a year. Because
Hmm.
next year, I really think it's going to explode. Next year, I think they're going to pay the running back. I'm not sure what free agents there are next year.
Yeah, I think you're getting a little bit of a resurgence. Yeah, you got Josh Jacobs on a new team who's doing good. You got Aaron Jones on a new team who's doing good. But then you got like obviously Saquon doing amazing, Derrick Henry doing
Joe
amazing.
Mixon.
Yeah, and then yeah, exactly. Joe Mixon's doing really good in Houston. And yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure all of the leaders in rushing yards are besides Bijan are all running backs that are on new teams. And I think it was interesting because you had a whole bunch of veteran running backs last year or free
Hmm.
agents that still had the juice left. And I think them going to new teams, yeah, I think that could revitalize their running back position,
Yeah.
especially having that one running back as a bell cow. And I do think it's funny though that the Giants chose Daniel Jones over Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, Aaron
And he's
Jones
not
is a
even on the
free
team
agent
anymore.
next year, actually.
Yep, yeah, he's on a 1 year
Yep,
deal.
I didn't realize that. Aaron Jones, Nick Chubb, Javante Williams. Those are the highlights. J.K. Dobbins. Um, there's a few of them in here. We'll see how it goes. There's going to be a hopefully a resurgence of the running back position. I would like to see that.
Yeah, it's always good.
There's quite a few wide receivers next year, though. Wide receiver, it's going to be a way different ball game.
Yeah.
We got Stephon
You
Diggs
got what?
next
T.
year, T.
Higgins.
Dehiggins, yep. Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, Chris Godwin, who will just be coming back from injury, which kind of stinks. Yeah, and Deontay Johnson, but he just got cut again, I think. DeAndre Hopkins, these are all older receivers.
Yeah, it's the Deontay Johnson one's funny to me because it's hilarious that I haven't done any research, but there's got to be someone in the Steelers organization that creates diva wide receivers.
It really is.
Well, you had Antonio Brown, you had what's his
Juju,
face? He's on yeah, Juju. You had Deontay, who I guess was a diva. They didn't really talk about it, but then he went. I don't even know. He was on the Steel or on the
yeah.
Ravens or somebody or the Panther, and he got cut because he's a pain.
Mhm.
And it's just funny that they just some. And then George Pickens, you could tell
George
George
Pickens, too,
Pickens
yeah.
is a pain in
They
the
have
ass. You
Le'Veon
could
Bell,
just
too.
tell he's a pain. Yeah, yeah, and you could just tell George Pickens is a pain in the
Yep.
ass. No one's gonna want to pay him because he's a pain. He's got an attitude. You could tell. And it's just curious that all these pain in the butt. I'm pretty sure wide receiver has a little bit of a diva, uh, or a lot of wide receivers are
I
divas.
think you got to
But
have
it's just
that
funny that
mentality
it looks.
at wide receiver and cornerback. I think you have to have like I'm the best mentality to, well, maybe not have to have, but it helps. If you look at a lot of those wide receivers that have done great, Michael Irvin, Terrell Owens, and there's countless
Mhm.
others, I'm sure, but a lot of them have that attitude, and they just have to act like the best because it's more of a mental thing for them. They just want to succeed, and that's how they do it. They just act like they're the best, and it's a mindset at that point.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely comes with it. They're a lot of times they can back it up, and when you can back it up, that's fine.
Hmm.
Be a diva. But when you stop being either able to back it up or it's detrimental to the team, that's when think sometimes a change of scenery needs to happen.
That happens though. I mean, a lot of receivers, and it happened to the running backs this year. Nobody wanted to pay them, but we'll see. It'll be an interesting season. I mean, we're already getting into talking about next season, and this season's not even over. So,
What bold predictions? Vikings versus
bold
Packers.
predictions:
What's one bold? You got any? You got at least one bold prediction. What are you thinking?
Josh Jacobs scores 3 times.
Wow, that is a bold prediction. Josh Jacobs, three tutties.
3 times.
Three tutties. Three
That's my bold
touchdowns. That is
prediction for
bold.
Sunday at 4:25 because the game has been flexed.
Josh Jacobs, are they all are all of Josh Jacobs touchdowns going to be, red zone punch-ins, or you think there's any, are one of them going to be long run, or are they all,
And I didn't think
within
that far. I
10
think
points?
he's going to have a game though. He might have one that he just bursts through on the right sideline, and then the other one's just a quick screen to the outside. He takes it from the 10-yard line and in, and then just one right up the middle.
Okay. I could see it. I could
I
see
think
it.
he's going to do it. That's my bold prediction. What do you got for your bold prediction?
Bold prediction. Let's see. Vikings versus Packers. My bold prediction is the both Jordan Love and Sam Darnold will have interceptions to break their little
Their
hot streak.
streaks.
And I think both Josh Jacobs and Aaron Jones will have over 100 yards and at least a touchdown. I think they're going to be semi focal points of the game.
I want to challenge you on those bold
I guess my
predictions. Those aren't that bold. Those are pretty regular.
bold I was going to say, all right, my boldest prediction will be there will be 7 different players to score a touchdown.
7 different players. Okay, that's bold.
So it could be
I
six and
love
two or 6-1. It could be 4-3. But I think we're gonna see some spreading of the ball in who sees the end zone.
I love that. That's pretty cool. That's a good one. I have never heard that one as a bold prediction before.
7 different players, baby, and that's with Justin Jefferson having 6 himself. No, I'm joking.
Justin Jefferson has 6 touchdowns. I might not speak to you.
Yeah.
We'll be done with podcasting.
Yeah. Oh, Andy. Watch, he's gonna get 5 and like one his 6th one will get called back or something. Or I do have a bold prediction, another
Okay.
one. This was my original one that I was coming in with. There will be, I don't know if this is that bold because it happens, but there will be either a controversial penalty or a controversial play that maybe it was called something on the field and they don't have enough to overturn it, but you're kind of like, that probably should be not called that, but they don't have enough. I think there's going to be a play like
Okay.
that in the game. I don't know if it'll be like a deciding factor, but I do think there's going to be like you're like, oh, you missed that penalty, or you called like defensive pass interference on that. That's not. They're just
Yeah.
playing, or
Something
something
cool.
like that. I think there's going to be a semi controversial either call or play that happens that gets ruled one way, and you're like, I don't know about that, or early whistle or something. There's gonna be some tomfoolery in this game, I believe.
Tomfoolery. I love that word. That's a good one. I like that bold prediction. That one's better.
Yeah, you know what's gonna happen.
I could see it happening.
Yeah, I think It's always tough in the playoffs. I think this year I believe as well as just hope. I do think it is the Bills. It's the Bills' season to lose, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
I do think it's clear cut that the Bills are the cream of the crop. They are the top team in the AFC, and I think they are the best team, and I think they're a team to beat in the AFC, even though they do not have the record. KC's got that record, but I think KC's had a little bit more of a cakewalk of a schedule, and I think the Bills versus KC. I think the Bills beat them, and I think it will be in KC, and we'll just have to see how it shakes out. I could see it being a close loss again, like always. I have a little bit more faith this year, just because I think KC is not as strong as has been in the past.
So, based on Kansas City's defense, they have one of the top defenses in the league. I could see that going the opposite way. I could see KC winning just because of their defense. Patrick Mahomes, he hasn't been himself this season. I think everybody knows that at this point, but he's still Patrick Mahomes, and he still finds ways to win the game. I could actually see KC
Hmm.
winning because it's just what's happened in the past, and their defense is just so good. There would have to be some sort of injury somewhere for them not to compete a little bit more in this next game. Because the first one was that in Kansas City, do you remember, or was it in Buffalo?
I'm not 100% certain where that game played out, but
It was in Buffalo.
I know I could see them. Obviously not nothing coming to fruition when they're playing the Bills versus Chiefs, in that the Bills having that offense being stymied by that defense. I could see that
It's
100%.
really weird hearing
Uh,
that Kansas City wouldn't be favored after they just won the Super Bowl.
yeah, right. And they also have the best. They're the number one seed, and they're the best
Yeah,
team by record. But I do think, yeah, in that game, I bet you unless Buffalo like barely gets by some of the teams in the playoffs, I mean, I think Buffalo would probably be the favorites in that game, betting odds at least. And I think, yeah, it's all going to come down to that defense, and that defense under Spagnola is freaking good, and they've shown it. And I mean, last year that defense is one of the reasons they won
yeah,
it
I
all.
would agree.
And I think, but the problem with them is that this year I think Patrick Mahomes has taken a little bit of a step back from his just ungodly self. But I also think they lack weapons. And I think he's just another year older,
Hmm.
and he's not young. I think he's like 33,
I thought he was
34.
35.
And oh yeah, or 35. He's not a spring chicken anymore. And I think that's shown this year. There's been a drop off, and I think that's just age,
Yeah, he is 35. He's born in 89. He's actually older than us.
which is
That's not normal.
semi unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's semi unusual now, which is sad to say.
Hmm. But yeah, I think I still think I kind of agree that it's the Bills' season to lose. I could see it happening easily because it's Patrick Mahomes, and you know what? That's that's just the way the cookie crumbles, I guess. You know, I'd say one of my matchups I'm most excited for has got to be Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson, though. If it does happen, I mean, it's all theoretical at this point, but odds are looking good for it to happen. Either them or KC. Bills got to play one
Yeah,
of
I
them.
mean,
They got to go through somebody to reach the promised land.
well, the Bills might have to go through both, because
Yeah,
being the two seed, you're most likely going to have to play the
yeah,
Ravens,
that,
and if you win, and they win
yeah,
obviously, because they play the 3 seed, and yeah, I mean that'll be I think that actually could be the downfall of the Bills, because I think, and that'll be the perfect. I mean, if you're a Chiefs fan,
that's the scenario
I
you want.
think,
Yeah,
yeah, you want the Ravens over the Bills, because I think the Chiefs, Steve Spagnuolo just knows how to play Lamar Jackson. I think he really knows how to take him out of his element and make him just a passer. And Lamar is a good passer, but if you make him just a passer, I think that's how you beat the Ravens. It's when you have a slight edge of he might be a rusher that makes him such a good passer. And I think the Chiefs just really know how to play him and make him really one dimensional, and just like not as explosive as a player, whether that's through the run or the pass. And they just really know how to play him. And I think Josh Allen and those Bills are just a way tougher obstacle for the Chiefs. Uh, and I think the Ravens beat the lights off the Bills early in the
Yeah,
season. That game was not even close.
yep. It'll be fun. I'm really hoping to see one of those games, if not both of them, in the playoffs for the AFC. NFC, I'm really hoping the Packers, probably the Falcons, I'm hoping for, but I'm not excited for it. I'd say I'd be most excited to play Detroit again and then see them win versus them.
Really?
I don't know. It'd just be
Okay.
a cooler storyline, I think. I probably wouldn't like the matchup wise because Detroit, they're just so good. They're good at everything. They lost Montgomery for the season, which stinks, but I think it would be a good game.
Yeah, I could see it being a good game. I do think that the Lions are injury riddled,
Hmm.
so I think that's gonna come. That's gonna. I actually would be out of the top four teams, and that's basically top four teams in NFC. I'm counting Eagles, Lions, Vikings, Packers. I would actually probably be most surprised if and I might get screwed. If I get screwed, that's fine. But the Lions of those four representing the NFC, and it's the only reason why is because of the amount of injuries they've had. If they had half the injuries they've had, I think they're clear cut numero uno in the NFC, and I think there's a good chance that no one touches them. But they've had so many injuries, and that really stinks for them. But it's opened the door for everyone else, and it's going to be an interesting. They have like 16, 17 players on defense on IR, and then you had David Montgomery go down. I mean, they got backups of backups playing on defense. It's wild. I think like both Aiden Hutchinson and they had Marcus Davenport, which they count as being a huge loss, but the dude gets hurt every year, so
Yeah,
it's not surprising. But their whole entire their linebackers have gotten decimated. Their corners have been their defense is starting nobodies,
hmm,
and eventually you just can't stop people. And then David Montgomery going down. I know he got a second or a third opinion, and he might be back for the playoffs. But that 1-2 punch was almost unstoppable.
yeah,
And I mean, Jameer Gibbs is probably a top five running back. I think he's actually better than David Montgomery. It's just him and David Montgomery makes for like the number one rushing tech in the NFL. But it's going to be interesting what they if they can stop somebody in the NFL. I think they're just going to have to try to outscore people, and that's not always the best way to go about winning.
yeah. I mean, it happens. I mean, the Packers also won in 2010 with 13 players on IR. They
Yeah.
had everybody: Nick Collins, Jermichael Finley, Ryan Grant. Everybody just kept going down that season. So you never know. There was always next man up. There was, yeah, Cullen Jenkins was out. Nick Barnett was out for 12 games. Morgan Burnett was out. Uh, Clay Matthews actually played. Brad Jones was out one game. But yeah, they can overcome it. It'll be difficult, but it's always just going to be next man up. And sometimes those injuries, though, they kind of fuel the team. In the Super Bowl, actually,
Mm-hmm.
Charles Woodson broke his collarbone halfway through. He didn't even play most of the game. Game-winning drive.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah, he
that.
broke his collarbone at halftime, the play before half. And then next man up, it was what was his name? Jarrett Bush. He replaced Charles Woodson.
Oh, I remember him.
He had a pick in the Super Bowl, yeah, and he won the game.
Good for him.
Yep, that was the only play he
'Cause
ever made. I did not want to see him
I was gonna
on the
say
field
he was. I was gonna say because he was not a good player, so good for him.
Yep,
Hey, he got a Super
he got
Bowl.
a Super Bowl. That was his moment, but it's always next man up. And listening to the players talk about it, apparently Charles Woodson, he was in his sling at halftime. He gave some sort of really emotional speech, and then they came out and just freaking balled, man. Jordy Nelson had a touchdown on the sideline. Greg Jennings had another one. Everybody was getting touchdowns that game. And James Starks had the game of his career, like 124 and a touchdown. He didn't do anything after that, but oh, the good old days.
Um, I was gonna say someday, Andy, I will feel the
Yep.
glory. Hopefully, before I die.
Yeah.
If I don't before I die, everyone at my funeral has to be dressed in. All the pallbearers have to be dressed in Vikings gear, so they can let me down one more time. If I don't get a Super Bowl, that's my one dying
Okay,
wish.
I can do that for you. Well, I'll probably be dead
Thank
too,
you.
actually. So hopefully they get it one day. I'm kind of hoping against it because that means the Packers don't. I kind of do for your sake, just because of look of disappointment I'm seeing right
That's
now.
why.
The
Hey,
pain,
that's
man.
why. That's why I'm. It's the purple pain. That's why I'm not surprised if we blow you out. If we get blowed out, if it's a close win, if it's a close loss. I mean, I've lived through it all. I know. I know. Hey, we haven't gotten blown out this year, which is weird.
Hopefully,
So,
it doesn't happen tomorrow or two
yeah,
days from now. I want to see a good
yeah,
game.
we'll just
I
have.
like to see the good games being played. So here's another question for you. What do you think of the Texans this season? Is this season kind of a letdown for them since they had such high expectations going into the season?
I think this year, I think the expectations were a little too high. I think they might have gotten ahead of themselves. If you look back, a lot of QBs that are amazing their first year, one it's not common
Yeah.
in general, but you get a little bit of a sophomore slump. That's to be. I think CJ Stroud's still going to be a good quarterback, but I think they got tape on him. I think that O line's not great. They had some injuries obviously. Stephon Diggs out for the year. They had a couple other wide receivers that were hurt. What's his face just blew his
Oh,
patella,
Tank Dell.
or he blew his
Yeah,
kneecap.
his
Yeah, he
knee
blew
got
his
blown up.
kneecap and he tore his
Hmm.
ACL, his MCL. That's they've had some injuries to some key spots, but I do think they were just probably a little bit too overhyped. I think they're a good team, but they're not a world beater. I wasn't on the bandwagon of them being like a Super Bowl pick.
Hmm.
I thought they were going to be a playoff team. Well, but part of that was because that division that they're in is just weak. I think like more of a letdown too is I thought like the Jaguars are a little bit more of a letdown. Not that people thought they were going to be good, but I just think that Trevor Lawrence, they were like pretty sure they were like 6-2 or something. Then he got hurt, played through the injury, and then they sucked. But then this year, I mean, I guess maybe a lot of times it's not a good idea to run it back because they ran it back and it looked horrible. But I think the Texans is just they did some moves that looked like it might be like they're trying to go all in. Getting Diggs
Yep.
over. I mean, that was a first round draft pick. I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah, I think it was a second actually,
And
but it was up there.
a second round. And it's just they're not there yet. They're still young, and they got a young QB on a rookie contract. Take advantage of that. I think, but I think they could build on it this year. It could be just because the expectations were so high, it's gonna be a letdown season, even though they should make the playoffs. But it's just they're gotta build on it, and I think they have a lot of good things in place. They're just not there yet. And I think they need to keep building that defense up and keep building that offensive line. I think it's going to come down to, I think they got some good players on the defensive line, but they need to build that offensive
Yeah.
line up. Just protect him a little bit better because I know like when the Vikings played him, he was getting walloped and he was looking scared because he just got sacked few two times, and it's not it's that's a good way to destroy a good
I
QB.
think Mixon was a great pickup for him, though. He's
Hmm.
another one they got this offseason. Um,
He was hurt for a little
yeah,
now.
he was hurt for a little bit. He's back now, but he's very good. Which is weird. He usually doesn't get hurt too often. When he was on the Bengals, he was pretty
Yeah,
consistently there. I think he was a good pickup, but there's going to be a lot of free agents next year. Maybe they get T. Higgins, put him with Nico Collins there because Diggs is probably gone. I think he signed a 1 year deal.
yeah,
But Nico Collins and T. Higgins, that'd be pretty freaking sweet to see. So we'll see though. They're a good team. I agree with you though. They are young. I think they were trying to do almost too much, and they probably put the cart before the horse, and
hmm
that they're trying to just get these receivers and running backs in skill positions. I don't know anybody on their offensive line really, or defensive line for that matter, or actually on the defense. I don't
Yeah.
know anybody on their team. So maybe it's just my lack of knowledge, but I don't think their defense is too good. And as I've always said, defense wins championships. I don't see them going very far without some key pieces on that defense.
Yeah, and I think another good example too is like the Commanders. The Commanders, they looked like they were gonna. I mean, they're projected to be a pretty bad team
Yeah.
this year, and they're exceeding expectations. And I think that's Jaden Daniels being so good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think next year they will be good, but I could see them taking, as far as record wise, taking a step back next year. And that's just because that roster is not great. It's not. Their defense is okay. Their offense is okay. I mean, you got uh McLaurin, who's always been amazing in my book. He's been a top 10 wide receiver. He's just been on that team with no QB
Yeah.
basically. But I could see them taking a step back in the essence of the same with the Texans, where that QB makes a splash and he makes a difference, but then he gets a little bit figured out, as well as he needs the rest of that roster to catch up. I think they could be an example of another team that takes a step back record wise. At least they might be better, but I think just record wise, I mean, because they've had some luck, they've had some Hail Marys or last minute luck. I think Jaden Daniels is a very good QB, and you saw that
Yeah.
coming. He was your number one QB, and I think, but I do think record wise, they could be a prime candidate to take a step back. Just they from, I think they're going to be the number two team, so you will have a little bit of a harder schedule, supposedly according to records. And I think you might see a little bit of regression, a la similar to the Texans. They're still a playoff team, and the Commanders still could be a playoff team, depending on the rest of the NFC. But I think they will be like another wild card, and they might be like a fringe. But that's just going to become, because of the reason, just the roster is going to catch up a little bit, that some of those holes will be discovered and they need to
I still think
fill those up.
they gotta probably compete with Philadelphia for that number one spot for the playoffs for a
100%.
while probably because Jalen Hurts is still young. Eagles will probably be good for a little bit still unless they have a sudden downfall. But they got Barkley for a while, and Barkley has completely changed that offense. um, so we'll see how it happens.
I agree. Yeah, I could see. Yeah, the Eagles should be good for a bit. They always have a weird, Philadelphia's always got that weird thing, like the beginning of the season when they were looking not
Yeah.
great, and people were calling for the coaches they had some turmoil, they had some inner things, even when they were on their winning streak. That you know, AJ Brown getting AJ Brown talking shit about Hurts. I mean, I don't know if it wasn't like public, but like they were having reports, and it was like, man, there's something in Philly. Like if you ain't like amazing, they want your head, and I think that's a semi problem winning a Super Bowl. But there was, you know, they chased out Andy Reid, which look what that did. I mean, and at the same point, they chased out Donovan McNabb, which when they did chase him out, he ended up being no good
Yeah.
anymore. But I mean, he was great on that team, and they had some good teams, and they're very strict and harsh franchise to play for, and I think that's similar to like the New York teams too. It might be just because they're a bigger market
I
team,
could see that.
and it's because the Jets. It's a hard the Jets and the Giants. That's a hard. If you're a prolific player, you're gonna get a lot of praise, but you're gonna get a lot of backlash when stuff doesn't go right. And it's just because I think it's because it's a big time market and big time sports. Big time sports cities.
I could argue the opposite because what about LA? They have two teams there now, and I don't think that way about the Rams or the Chargers.
Well, I think LA is a big city, but I don't think LA is a big sports city. That's why teams have gone there and
Not
left.
I'd say basketball.
But I think LA is okay. If we're drifting off to the basketball, yeah, I can see that. But I think for football, I think the reason why there is because I think there's a lot going on in LA
That's true.
because you do got those basketball teams. You got some rich history there, and I think when football teams have gone there, they just haven't had the fan base behind them.
Yeah, I can see that because now those are two very new teams, so it's kind of hard to have those diehard fans for it when a lot of these fans from, say, Green Bay or Minnesota or all these other places, New York and the Jets in Philadelphia, they've been there for decades. They've been there for a long time. You get these people that grew up fans and they have always been the same
Mhm.
fans. So it's kind of hard to put that more into comparison from LA's point of view. So I understand that.
Yeah, I mean, and then you have people that like the team moves and you're still a fan of that team, and it can be interesting. I mean, you got like Dave, that mean friend of ours, staying a Rams fan. But
Sorry, Dave.
yeah, I think it's interesting when a team relocates and like you got to. I think it's easier when you're like a fan, like we both don't live in the places of our fandom, so it's a little different for us. But like if we were Bills fans and in Buffalo, and then they moved. I mean, obviously moving Toronto is not that big, but like if the Buffalo Bills moved to LA, that'd be a huge change, and that would all. I mean, if I'm a Bills fan, I'm gonna rethink my fandom because I'm like that's my home
Yeah,
team, but then now they're no longer my home team, and they're real far away. I don't know.
you don't go to any of their games anymore. You can't see them play. What if you're like a season ticket holder? You don't watch them anymore because
Yeah,
you don't have the season.
I do wish I was a season ticket holder and not the Bills of the Vikings, obviously, and it'd be dope to be a season ticket holder of the Packers. But we would
Yeah,
also have to have
that's
a
never
lot of money to be able to do that because we'd have to travel every single time.
I'm on the waiting list actually.
There you
It'll
go.
probably never happen, but if it ever does, I'm on the waiting list. I got a.
There's a waiting list for the Vikings too. And I am not signed up for it because one, I can't afford it, but two, like even if I could afford it, the season ticket, I can't afford to go there all the time. I have to sell every single
Yeah,
ticket, and then I'm one of those people that sells it to the Packers fans who are coming in for Vikings Packers. Get out of here. I'm not gonna stoop to that level.
more than 50% of the tickets sold for this upcoming Sunday game versus Packers are Packers fans.
That's baloney. I hate them. I know the game. You know what it is too is like the game. Do people are making bank? I think I looked
Yeah.
at one point. They were like 350 for nosebleeds. Get out of
Oh
here.
man, that's expensive.
Yeah, and you know what? Let's say the Vikings win, that Detroit game in Detroit's going to be insanely priced too, and there's going to be a lot of Vikings fans. That's what it is. The season ticket holders, they're like, I could go or I could watch it at home and make a lot of money.
hmm
Why don't I just do that? Let's make a lot of money
That's
and stay home and watch it. No big deal.
yep. My philosophy is if I ever do get these season tickets, I will be retired and I will have nothing better to do but to sell it to a game.
Yeah, and I mean,
If I
it,
sell enough of them, the ticket.
exactly. Yeah, you sell half of them, try to go to half, or try to go to at
hmm
least 3, 4. Well, I guess 4 would be half, unless it's a year that you get 9.
By then, they'll have the NFL game to 30 games a season.
Probably.
They'll have an A team and a B team playing.
Yeah, right.
Maybe a C team, a backup squad, and
Black, silver, and white.
yeah, exactly.
Shout out to Pee Wee.
They got rid of the Hilton Raiders,
Yeah, that's the mini cadets or junior cadets.
junior cadets. Yeah, it's not the same.
For now, it makes sense though,
It does.
but it's not. It's not the same.
No, it's not the same. It hurt my soul a little bit.
I still have at least one jersey, I think, somewhere, unless I might have donated it. Might
Maybe
fit you.
I'll wear your jersey. What number were
Yeah.
you? You were like third. No, you were 50
I was
something.
20.
20. That's what
No,
you
on
were.
Raiders, I
Yeah,
was 82. I was 82, then I was 20, and then I might have been 21 again in 20. I don't know.
I remember you being number 20 because I was 85 when I was in.
Yep, you were 85.
Dylan was
85,
35, I think.
37, 37.
37, that's what he was, yes.
Because you know why he was 37? He was 37 because I don't even think he remembers this. In NFL quarterback club, I believe it was either 98 or 99. That was an N64 game. There was this safety on the Jaguars, and his last name, I don't know, I don't remember his first name, but his last name was Lake. He was number 37, and that is the reason why Dylan wore the number 37.
Just because he knew this one player, or he played with this one
Yeah,
player one
I know.
time.
Yeah, he played with this one player. He liked him, and he
Yeah, oh no,
that's
37
what
now.
it was.
Okay.
Right here. Let's see. Oh, right here. I got it. I got the guy's name.
You got the name?
Ooh, maybe. Let's
The
see.
source of Dylan's number?
Yep, it was Carnell Lake.
Carnell Lake. Okay, I gotta have to ask him about that.
6'1", 210 out of UCLA for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He played in 185 games. That's
Wow.
not bad.
Yeah, he has quite a resume then.
He was a second round draft pick out of the Pittsburgh Steelers in 1989.
We were not even born.
No. So that must have been the talent of his career. He was always number 37. 9 years, Jags for 1 year, skipped a year, and then played for the Ravens. On the Super Bowl team, I think, for the Ravens. Not bad.
So this year,
But yeah.
what do we got going on? What do you think about Brock Bowers and his kind of forecast going forward with the Oakland Raiders? Do you see him staying there, or somebody trading for him? And if so, who and why?
So I think he's a time traveler
Oh,
because he's playing for the Oakland Raiders. But he going forward on the Las Vegas Raiders, he's going to be one of the better tight ends. I do think being on that team, they have nobody.
I mean,
Literally, they have nobody.
he's
They
a
have Brock Bowers, and I honestly don't know if I could name, or I do know. I don't even think he's starting anymore. They do have Alexander Madison, former Viking.
yep.
He's definitely a backup running back, and they had him as a starter for a little bit.
They got
I don't think
Jacoby
he's starting
Myers
anymore.
still too, I think.
Okay, so they got Jacoby Myers. Couldn't or and they have on defense they have he's hurt now. Defensive end.
Oh, Crosby.
Yeah, Crosby. Max Crosby's a monster.
Yeah, he's a beast.
But they need a quarterback bad.
They need a lot, unfortunately.
They
A
need an
running
O
back
line.
they need a receiver. I don't think Jacoby Myers is a number one. Really, the only thing they have on that offense is Brock Bowers. It might be why he's doing so good, but
Yeah.
I still think he's a good player. Well, hopefully they get a quarterback in this next draft or switch it up because whoever they have now, I think it was Aiden O'Connell for a little bit, and then who was the other guy they had?
Did they have Minshew this year?
Oh, Minshew. Yes, it was Minshew. Neither one of
Okay.
them is meant to
Yeah, they got
be
backups.
an NFL starter. Yes. So we'll see. But Brock Bowers is still producing. I mean, he's got over 100 catches already this season. He's got over 100 catches, 1,000 yards. They haven't thrown many touchdowns, so he only has 4 of them. But he's still a good player. I'm excited to see him next year. Probably try to draft him in fantasy because, well,
Yeah.
they don't have anybody else. So,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he'll be the number one tight end, I think, next year, drafted.
uh huh.
The offense is going to go through him. It should go through him unless they somehow like completely overhaul that offense. But I think that, yeah, like, the roster is just, it's bad.
It's
And I
bad.
think that they need a lot of
They
players
gave away
to,
Josh Jacobs, who, well, he
you know,
could have been good there, but he's in a better place. Sounds like he
yeah,
died
I
there,
mean,
but it was actually the opposite.
yeah, yeah, he didn't die. He didn't die. Um, Yeah, and it's just they're right now they're one of the worst like rosters. It's just all around bad
It's
there.
got to be them or Tennessee, maybe. Tennessee's
Tennessee, yeah,
they got a pretty
Tennessee's
bad.
got a pretty brutal roster. I mean, the Jaguars got a pretty brutal roster.
Yep,
They got Trevor, but he got shut down because he was hurt or whatever. But their roster's not that great. Yeah, Raiders. I mean, I
You got no words. It's the first time
it's
that's
bad.
ever seen I've seen you do that.
Yeah, it's bad.
The Jets are also pretty bad. It looks like they're gonna get rid of Rodgers.
Unfortunate because last year, and last year and the year before that, all you heard about is how good that defense was.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know what happened, but like you just don't hear about it this year at all. Like
No.
that defense is just gone, and it's strange
Yeah.
to me.
It
It's
is.
just weird that that
It's
defense was so good, and then now it's not.
I don't understand. How do they go from so good to just so bad so quickly? They didn't have many changes.
That's what I'm saying. Then they won a lot of games with like Zach Wills. They won a lot of games with QBs that weren't great,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden Aaron Rodgers is actually healthy, and then like the defense is like, oh yeah, we don't play defense. I don't know.
Which
It's
is
strange.
yeah, it's just weird. They changed the
That'll
offense.
be an
They bring in all these players. They have Devonte Adams now, which I honestly thought he was going to have a bigger impact. I thought he still had some gas left in that tank, but really, they
yeah. Well, he's been playing good the last couple, but I think an older quarterback coming back from an AC or Achilles injury in both Aaron Rodgers and in Kirk Cousins,
mhm.
that it really, I think it really affects the QB position. That
Yeah,
Achilles injury that takes a lot of steam off your passes,
yeah,
and it reduces your mobility a lot as I think as a quarterback, especially when you're. I mean, A Rod's what 40, 40,
I think he's 42.
39, 42, which is that's old for an Achilles injury. And then like yeah, Kirk Cousins is like what 35, 36, and Kirk Cousins was never mobile. Aaron Rodgers was used to be pretty mobile, but he's 40 something coming off a one of the worst current injuries. Like ACLs now are a little bit they're a little bit better at
Yeah,
doing that injury, but Achilles is
if you pop that,
I
and
mean
it's
bad.
hard. It's hard to recover from that. Yeah,
And
because
I think it affects the QB position a little bit different because I think it hinders the twisting driving motion of the ball. And I think it takes a lot of steam off those passes compared to like you have like a Cam Akers who I think he ended up popping both of them. But like a running back, okay, like yeah, you obviously are running and you need that. It's a natural position where like a throwing is it's all torque. And I think the problem with the Achilles is it's making your legs have less drive into the ground, and it's making it so you can get less torque on that ball and be able to spin it as fast as you used to. And I think a lot of QBs, one, if you have a drop off in arm talent or arm speed, that's a huge detriment. And I think possibly a bigger detriment is QBs don't understand that that's what's happening,
hmm
so they think they could still make the throws. And what happens is they still try to make those throws and it just doesn't work anymore.
I think it's tough for quarterbacks nowadays, especially they always try to play longer than they should. That's the problem. There is, I mean, Peyton Manning is a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
Last year when he was on the Broncos, he just had a noodle arm. That's all he had. It was the defense that they expected to make all the plays, and they did. They were very good, but still, he had nothing left. It was Demarius Thomas taking it to the house through a slant and just go, like the Tim Tebow one. I keep thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
He was
Yeah,
one
against
of
the
those.
Steelers.
Yep, he was one of those players who could just take the top off the defense. Um, and Peyton Manning didn't have to do much. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what Rodgers is going to have to do. He's going to have to rely on those receivers more, and they got to fix that defense. Something's wrong with it. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah,
something is wrong with it. And they lose DJ Reed is a free agent, I believe, this year too, or next year.
great, great.
Yep. So
Yeah, and I think one of the problems is that Tom Brady kind of did something that probably won't like, or I should
yeah,
say, he did something that is very rare. There's only been a couple QBs who've played in their 40s and played good,
yeah, he set the
and Tom
expectation
Brady,
too high for everybody.
yeah, Tom Brady just one. He was never really like a phenom when it came to like athletic talent or arm talent. He was never like amazing, but I think one thing he did have is he never really lost it,
Yeah.
which is uncommon because you saw, yeah, you saw it uh, with Peyton Manning where he had a noodle arm. You saw it with Drew Brees too in his
Yeah.
last year and a half, where he just didn't have that arm anymore, but he still had it up here, and
Philip
I think he
Rivers.
was able to.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, Philip Rivers. The difference is like knowing. I think Tom Brady, he probably lost some of that, but he was such a mastermind of the game and a student of the game where he and then Peyton Manning kind of showed it too. Even though he had a noodle arm, he understood these are the passes I can make. If I don't get it off in 3 seconds, I have to take a sack.
Yeah.
I can and cannot make these passes, and it's just the you have to become more. I know it's a stigma, but you have to become more of a game manager and maybe not make those deep, huge time throws. You just got to make the smarter throws that your arm currently can handle. And I think it actually, when you have a cannon and when you have extreme arm talent like an Aaron Rodgers, could become a detriment when you start losing that a little bit because you were so used to being able to thread the needle, put it into pockets that literally only a couple people in the world can make,
Mm-hmm.
and put it in to a receiver that and make passes that are ungodly. But when you lose a little bit, you can no longer those passes are a little bit off or they're a little bit slow or you have to throw them a little bit before you used to. And are you going to realize that? And I think that is the huge difference between your over 40 quarterbacks, why there aren't that many, because you have to completely change a game. And when you're used to having a cannon
Mm-hmm.
and you no longer have a cannon, a lot of times your whole career you relied on that
That's true.
mother
Yeah,
sucker.
I believe that. And the worst part is, for Jets fans, anyways, the AFC was open this year. They
Oh yeah.
AC. I still think they're vulnerable. I still think they're going to do well, and but it's vulnerable. It's not like most other seasons where you have such high expectations from a lot of teams. It's three teams, and I think that's it. So they had the
Hmm.
chance, um, kind of faltered it. Maybe he'll come back next season, and maybe it'll be a different story. But as of right now, I don't see the Jets doing well again. And honestly, the Green Bay Packers made out like bandits in that trade. That and Devontae Adams, actually.
Yes. No, I think they 100% did. They got a lot for what ended up not being. I mean, Devontae was good. I think that they got a lot for Aaron Rodgers,
They
and I
got
think that
two
was
seconds, yeah.
yeah, that was beautiful. I think the Devontae uh they got a lot, but I think Devontae got wasted just being on a absolutely horrible
Yeah,
Raiders team. If he would have went to a different team, he was still in his prime. He was still one of the best.
I agree.
Um,
I think he wanted the money.
yeah, I think he wanted that money. Um,
He did deserve
semi
it.
unfortunate, semi unfortunate that went that route, and I think it's bringing up trades though and getting. I think the biggest plus trade for the Minnesota Vikings and one of the biggest names in Vikings history as being one of the most influential players in Vikings history. And it's because of his play as well as because what he trading him did for us is Stephon Diggs.
Really?
Oh yeah. One, he had the Minneapolis Miracle,
Oh, yeah.
which we watched live together.
Yeah.
Again, sorry for kissing you in my joy. Um, but that was an amazing play. But then also trading him, which would end up being the Justin Jefferson pick, is I think Justin Jefferson will go down. Justin Jefferson currently argument for the greatest of his generation, and of the I'll say 2000 on, and
Yeah.
I think by the end of his career he will be in the argument for best wide receiver. Period.
Ever?
Ever. Period.
Ever.
I
That's,
don't know. I will say this. I don't know if he'll have the longevity as Jerry Rice, but I think he will have higher highs than he will have to go about the Jerry Rice argument just because I think Jerry Rice will always have the longevity argument.
see,
But I think
the
he'll
one thing about Jerry, too, is he's got Super Bowl rings, though.
That's true too.
Yeah,
Hey, let's
that's
go,
tough to do.
Jefferson.
If Justin
Bring him
Jefferson,
home, baby.
yeah, if he gets that to that level, then Minnesota's doing a lot of things right. It's not just Justin Jefferson. Um, yeah,
Yeah, but Justin's only 25.
it's only 25. I didn't realize.
So if he's got, I mean, if he's got 7 to 8 more years of him going over 1,000, over 100, getting double, triple teams, I mean, he's already breaking basically every single age based record, every single season based in the league record. What was it back in?
Him and Darnold are the same age
We
then?
No, Darnold's 27.
27.
Yeah, he's younger than Darnold.
He's
He was
younger.
drafted after Darnold, but he
So here's another question. If Justin Jefferson continues to do what he has already done, and then Sam Darnold also does that, does your offensive coordinator get poached and go somewhere else?
So our offensive coordinator is Wes Phillips. I Our offense is Kevin O'Connell.
Okay.
So if I would actually be surprised if someone poaches Wes Phillips, I think uh, it's Kevin O'Connell's. I'm way more worried about Brian Flores.
Yeah,
I do. I'm hoping, which is not a good thing to hope for, but with the ongoing legal battle between Brian Flores and the NFL, it's still ongoing. Um, I am hoping that he lasts another year because I do think Harrison Smith, who's my probably my favorite Viking, I think he he has one more year on his contract. I think after he restructured and everything, I think he comes back if Brian Flores comes back.
I could see that.
If he doesn't, I do think there's a very very good chance he retires because he actually thought about retiring this offseason. But I love him and I love just the type of player he is. I think he should be a Hall of Famer. Do I think he'll actually be a Hall of Famer? He doesn't have the Super Bowls or as many accolades, but I do think his stretch of career, he was amazing, and he was a top five safety basically his whole entire career, which is something to be said. And there was years where he was clear cut the number one in my book, and if not, he was number two. But I do think Brian Flores is the coach I'd be most worried about. Wes Phillips, I mean, if someone poaches him,
Whatever. Yeah.
I actually think uh, our QB coach will get poached before him. Our QB coach is Josh McCown
Okay.
because he actually, I think before he became our QB coach, he randomly got a head coaching interview.
What?
Yeah, randomly, and like he had no coaching experience. He just randomly got a head coaching
He
experience.
just used to be a quarterback. They're like,
COVID.
oh, this guy can
Yeah,
be a coach.
yeah. But I do think, and I don't think it's a bad idea if you like just now. You just saw what, or you were seeing what KOC and that team's doing with Sam Darnold, and you got a Josh McCown who's in his ear. He's the QB coach. He's there every day. He's talking to him every day. He's talking to him during the on the sidelines. And I do think if you have a young QB or you're going to draft a young QB and you want to take that new offensive minded route and you want to take a chance, I would not be surprised if a team takes a chance on Josh McCown before they take a chance on Wes Phillips.
Josh McCown, he's played for a lot of freaking teams. I'm looking here. Three
Oh
seasons
yeah, he
in
played on every team.
Arizona, a season in Detroit. He went to Oakland in 2007, Miami in 2008, Carolina in 2008 to 2009, and then Hartford Colonials. I don't know. Is that Canada? Hartford? You know where that is?
Must be
Yeah.
Hartford.
Uh,
Hartford's there's Hartford, Connecticut. What was it? It must be a UFL or
yeah,
XFL
maybe.
team.
In 2010, that's where he went. And then the Browns, the Jets, the Eagles, and then the Texans. He's been freaking everywhere.
Yeah, that's a lot of fucking teams.
He's turning Darnold into a great player. I got to give him that. He doesn't have much experience to do much else, but if Darnold keeps producing, he might have something to go off of and take an offensive coordinator job somewhere, or maybe even more someday.
And interesting to look at the Rams with Sean McVay.
He's got
They
everybody under that tree. Yeah.
since Kevin O'Connell left, they've been slacking over there.
They kind of have actually.
They've been slacking, you know. They've been different since he left. I'm just saying, Dave. I'm watching you. It might have been KOC all along.
Maybe it was, yeah.
When they were 5-12, 10-7. Yep. Yeah, I mean that coaching tree, the Sean McVay, which goes to which right now Mike Shanahan's tree, if you count the shot, which it is Sean McVay's part of that, and Kyle Shanahan and KOC. I mean that tree's got to be, at least currently widespread through the NFL, the number one. But shout out to even though it wasn't good when he was there, but Jay Gruden. Shout out to Jay Gruden.
Yep.
He had Kyle, he had Sean, he had KOC. I mean, he had the Bengals coach. He had everyone. He had Jay Gruden, not a good head coach, but he knew how to build up those future great head coaches, you know?
Yep. I don't know how he just didn't do great. Kind of disappointed in that. I
That
had a
was
lot of faith in him.
when they were the Redskins.
Yeah, I was looking at that. They got the Redskins here, 2013. The coaching staff, Bobby Slowick, who's the defensive or Texans offensive coordinator. They got Matt LaFleur. They got Sean McVay, Shanahan, and Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, that's a wild,
Yeah,
wild.
all of
That's
them.
a good.
That's a good
That is
coaching staff.
amazing.
How was the 2013 Washington Redskins not awesome?
That was the year that RG3 got hurt, maybe or no?
They had Kirk Cousins as the
Ed Kirky boy. Yeah, I think that was
they won 3 games.
as far as coach,
Hmm.
considering like they're amazing coaches now in the NFL.
They're all great. Yeah, that's kind of sad.
Yeah, you had a lot of smart minds under one roof. Maybe you had too many. I don't know. Probably not really calling the shots.
No, they're just kind of there. Hey, what's this going like? And they all had their play sheets off to the side, making alternative plays for Kirk Cousins. You know what I'm kind of curious about? If they all were helping out Kirk Cousins and RG3, I would expect Kirk Cousins to want to go to one of those teams, actually. You would think, right? I wonder if that impacted his decision making at all this offseason.
I honestly think Kirk is he was all about making as much money as he possibly can.
Yeah, I could see that. He had all guaranteed contracts, right?
Yeah, whoever made the most gave him the most money, he was going to.
Yep.
And thank the Lord, Atlanta outbid the Minnesota Vikings.
He got a lot of money. That's a
Yeah,
interesting concept everybody's going for now, all guaranteed contracts. I mean, Deshaun Watson today, he got restructured. Did you see that?
yeah, which is funny because restructuring a fully guaranteed contract just means you're adding years on dead years and void years to the
Yeah.
end of the contract to spread out some of the cap hit. That's the problem with fully guaranteed. The problem with that is you can't even do any back end like finagling. If someone has a non fully guaranteed contract, you can theoretically you do not have to go to them to move their money. A lot of
Hmm.
teams will still go to them and say, "Hey, we're thinking about doing this, this, and this. Is this okay with you? Or we want to restructure it? You'll get a signing bonus right now, and you'll get all this money up front, and then that allows us to push it back into different years." But a lot of that you can actually do without like actually talking to the player. A lot of times it does, but it gives you flexibility. When you have a fully guaranteed contract, that contract's fully guaranteed. You
Good stuff.
can't do that. The
Yeah.
only way you could do that is if they literally say it's okay to add some void years, and if a player's a jackass, they say no. But that's the problem with fully guaranteed makes it so there's a lot less flexibility to be able to move it to different years, so it affects the different cap hits.
Yeah, that's what the Packers did with David Bakhtiari. And
Yeah,
this is his last year on the contract. And you know what? He's not even playing. He didn't even play the past 2 years, I don't think. The Packers are paying him 21 million this year. Like that's
yeah, which is
ridiculous
crazy.
amount for not
Is
playing.
he retired
I don't think
or is
he's
he
retired.
just?
I think he's a free agent. I don't think he's done anything. But yeah,
Which
this
he
is
used
the
to
last
be.
year.
He was amazing.
He
Just
was
injuries got
a
up to
top
him.
3 tackle, yes, when he was
Yeah,
alive.
just injuries got him.
They get
Well, he's still
everybody.
alive.
Yeah, he's still alive. I shouldn't have said that. He's still alive, but he's no longer functioning in the NFL.
Well, hey, O line and D line, beat your body up.
But yeah, this is the last year that he's on the Packers books, so they have money next year. I really think the Packers are going to make a free agent splash this offseason. Um, kind of need a linebacker. I'm not sure what free agents there are, but maybe some defensive
Yeah.
linemen or something. It'd be nice to see them make some sort of pick. Maybe like Khalil Mack would be nice, but we'll see. It's a long ways away still. The Packers are just going to keep getting better. They're so young, doing great as it is. So next year, I'm hoping. Do you know what divisions the NFC North plays next year?
Um,
I'm pretty sure we play the NFC East. No, did we play them this year? I know the Packers played the Eagles.
we
Yeah,
played the. I'm just looking it up. We played.
played AFC
I can tell you,
South.
that division's god
That
awful.
that actually could contribute to why the NFC North is so good. That
Yeah, we played.
division is just so bad. I mean, if you think about it, that's 4 wins for every team.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. So
16 wins.
next year we're playing the AFC North. That'll be some tough games,
Yeah,
and the NFC East, which a couple tough games, couple easy games,
yeah,
but possible not easy games. And then our 17th opponent, which will be based on record, is the AFC West.
that'll be fun.
Yeah, so it should be. Yeah, we played AFC South and NFC West, so we played some semi weaker divisions this year.
This year, yeah, I would say that. I forgot we played the NFC West. We'll see. So next year, hopefully, it's a little bit easier. What do you got for the games tomorrow then? First one, I think it's a pretty easy call. Chargers,
Chargers.
yeah, versus New England. It's a pretty
Then
easy
we
one
got
to call out. This
Denver and Cincinnati.
Denver and
Oof.
Cincinnati, that's a good one. I think I would have to go Denver. I like their defense.
Yeah, I think I'd be rooting for the Bengals, but I think I'm gonna have to agree with you, and I think Denver wins that game. I think their defense is just a little too good,
Their defense is good, but I
and
think
the Bengals defense is horrible.
yes. I was thinking Pat Surtain is one of the best corners in the league right now. Um,
Yeah, I have no clue.
but he's doing well. I can tell you that. They got a good defense for a reason. I actually won one of my fantasy games purely because of that defense. He had a pick
Yeah, it was
six.
against me, Andy.
Yeah, it was great.
This sucks. I was winning, and we were playing the Browns, and Denver's defense got like 20 something points.
Yeah, they had two pick sixes at the end of the game, and I won by like 2 or 3, I think.
Oh, really? Yeah, you did. This is baloney. It messed up the playoff seeding for me.
Yep, my team was so bad. Besides Denver's defense too.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. No, and then you had David Njoku, who he decided he was going to be the only Browns player to show up, and he got like 20 something points. And I went to bed. I was winning like by like 30 points, and then I wake up and I lost by a couple. I'm like, this is bullshit.
Yep, that was a good week because that's not the only one that made me win too. I won from that pick six in 2 different fantasy leagues that week. It was a good week.
Man, yeah,
But
must
yeah,
be nice.
Denver's defense, that's who I got tomorrow. Um, not their offense. I don't have much faith in
Yeah.
that. And then
Who's the
let's see.
night game?
In the night game, we got Rams versus Cardinals. That's a tough one. I don't like
Rams.
division games.
Me neither, but I'm going Rams. I think they're destined to be that menace and then playoffs that no one wants to play.
Yep, I could see that. Wow, the Bears ended up losing by 3 points on Thursday. It was 6-3 was the final score. What kind
Yeah,
of?
I didn't watch the first half. I checked in at halftime and I was like, yeah, I'm not watching this. And it was 6-3.
I didn't see
It
it.
was a 6-3 at halftime.
That's that's bad. That's just that's just bad. The Bears just still suck. That's one fan I
Yeah, it's
really feel bad for. Is a Bears fan. I don't know any of. Well, I know one, but the Bears fans just they got it rough.
Well, especially that they had so much hype. Like they're like some analysts are saying that they were going to win the division.
Yeah. I heard so
You're
much
out of your
hype
mind.
on how they're going to beat the Packers and all off season. That's all they always ever are though. They're all just hype. And they come into the season and they had one decent season when they had Devin Hester there, but
Yeah.
pretty sure they lost still.
Yeah. All right, Andy, your prediction: Packers versus Vikings. Packers at U.S. Bank Stadium versus the Vikings. What's your how's the game going to go? What's some of the game flow maybe? And what's your final prediction?
I'm
You
telling
already
you,
got 3 touchdowns.
I got
Josh
Josh
Jacobs.
Jacobs 3 touchdowns. That is my bold prediction of the game. Yes. Final score, I would say 33-30 Packers.
Barn burner.
Barn burner. I'm predicting your bold prediction. 7 different players score.
There we go, baby. A lot of
um,
points. Got to
actually,
put
how
up
many
points.
points is that? If Josh Jacobs has 3 of them, that's
Yeah, you better do your math
no,
because I
that's
don't know if
not
that
that's
works
not
out.
enough. We need more touchdowns than that.
Well, 3, that's 21. You can still have it, right? 21. The Minnesota Vikings would have to have.
Every player have to score. Yeah.
Yeah, they would have to have like 4 touchdowns and a safety to make it 30 instead of two field goals.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd say 30-33 Packers. It's going to be a close game. At least I hope it's a close game. I I don't think the passing game will be as good as it usually has been the past few weeks for the Packers or the Vikings. I think it's going to come down to Aaron
Mm-hmm.
Jones versus Josh Jacobs pretty much. It's going to be a lot of running the ball, especially since you just told me how the Vikings just suck at running the ball for some reason or suck at defending the run even though nobody does it.
Yeah, it's magical. I don't know. I'll tell you what, it's gonna happen. It happens every game. All of a sudden, Josh Jacobs is just gonna decide to stop running them.
Yep.
I
Um,
think the key would be if they don't, but I think for some reason Josh Jacobs just will not get the. There'll be a bull. Josh Jacobs gets less than 15 carries.
15. What if he
Less
scores
than 15.
3 times with those 15 carries?
He ain't scoring 3 times. You're out of your mind.
He's scoring three
I think
times.
I think he's scoring one. He's gonna do like 15. He's gonna have a good yards per carry. I bet you it's like 15 and 104, 1 touchdown. At the end of the game, it's gonna be 28-24 Vikings. At the end of the game, one of the big questions is gonna be why did they stop running Josh Jacobs? I'm telling you. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. 28-24. So that's gonna be that's exactly 7 touchdowns. That's gonna be by 7 different players. You got Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones. Put this on your parlay. Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones, Wicks, Kraft, Jefferson Addison. I'm gonna
Hawkinson.
throw like a Johnny Munt, our third string tight end, touchdown. You heard it here first.
That's the
Put
game flow.
100 on it. I bet you that's like a plus 9,000.
And you just won somebody a lot of money. I
You're
can't count
welcome.
that high. ninety
You're
thousand
welcome.
dollars.
You're welcome.
All right. Is that it?
Yeah, I don't got much more.
Yep. I'm good for the night here. All right. That's episode 5 of Sideline Whispers.
Woo! Ooh, I hit red. That was the first time ever.
Yep. All right. Bye, everybody.
Peace.
Stop.